lastly, I want to tell you a little bit about my ball winder, which is this thing. I use it to unravel things that I have knitted that went wrong in some way. So I need to use the yarn again, and I would like it to be on these nice little tight balls rather than something, you know, hand wound. So let's do this. First of all, let's look at the parts of it. There's this wheel thingy that spins this around, and on the other side there is a eye of sorts, and all of these things can be taken off. So it sort of has a gear part which holds this, and if you just take this and put it here, it won't work. It's going to be strange. This part can be taken off also, and sometimes when you find these at like second-hand shops, this part will be missing, and it is very important, but it is just a piece of wire basically. So I think you could make it yourself if you're a little nifty. But this goes into a hole here, and this part goes on the middle, and then the last part goes on like that, and it's on mine anyway, it sort of snaps when it's in place. This one is very old. I got it when I got the pass-up, and it has the kind of plastic that when it turns another color you can't really get it back. Don't know what it's called, but it looks sturdy, and it's really not. When you have this, you'll just turn the handle and make sure that the yarn is feeding in a smooth way onto the winder. So the thing we're going to do is we're going to take the yarn, just take this off so you can see. You're going to put it into the eye here, or you can thread it through if you want to do that instead. And then you put it on top here and push it into the teeth. And don't worry about this, as long as you can see it. That should just be a little bit here. Now I like to do this a little bit from the top, so like this, and then you just wind. And the tension is actually quite important, depending on what you want to use this for. Of course, if you're just going to use it in like hand knitting or hand crocheting, it won't be that big of an issue. With the pass-up, you kind of need a slightly looser tension, because if the tension of the unwinding of the ball, if you can put it like that, if the tension is too high, or if it fluctuates a lot, it will have an impact on the fabric, and it will give you different different sizes of stitches, and it will look uneven. And also, if you wind it very, very tight or taut, I think my English is really strange in these areas, but I think if you wind it really tight, then you might break the yarn on the pass-up, and that is of course very unfortunate. Also, it might sometimes be hard for it to get into the tension mast, and when that happens, it tends to catch on the eye, because the mast becomes it goes all the way down to the eye, and then it catches. I've had that problem a couple of times, and then of course the yarn breaks because there's too much tension on it. And this yarn is very, I can show you with this one. Is this the end? Yes. This yarn, it really doesn't take much for it to break. So it will hold up most of the time, but if you put a little too much pressure on it, and especially if it's like in the needles or in the eye, then it has a tendency to break. Now, what I'm doing right now is I got down to the... I showed you on a ball that I had already wound, which was why it was really easy to begin with, but now... Oh, and my dog's hair is all tangled up in this. Now we get to the part where we need to unravel from the... You can see this took a long time. I did a lot of short rows, but I just I got a big hole and now I have to start over. But anyway, you have to unravel this first. Because as I said, if it's too tight and you put it on the pattern, then it will break. So I could sort of put this here and then have it. Can I? No, it's not even. It would be too tight to have this pull on this. Even for winding the ball, I can't get it to do that. But what I like to do is I like to take out a long strand and then I put it behind me, so that it's sort of it's it's laying flat and straight, and then I can just wind until I get to the point where I need some more, and then I just pull on it and kind of hope that I don't break it and that it's not catching on something. So the ball winder makes it easier to do these nice balls. I kind of like these also because they become center pull, so it's nicer for hand knitting. It's nicer for doing it on the pattern, but it's also just easier than actually winding because it becomes a real sort of yarn ball rather than when you do this. There are issues with this and it does sometimes not and stuff. This yarn comes from a cone, so there aren't any knots in it when it comes from the from the factory. I don't think I've ever had a knot in this yarn. It's very nice. But I don't want to introduce any. I don't want to. Well, there are going to be some, but I'd much prefer. So this is where the hole were. So this was the last part I knitted, and then this was before that. So the yarn broke, and in order to carry on, I actually just like tinked, if you want. I just knitted back to the part where I wanted to pull it out, and I had this idea that I would just leave a strand and then weave that in afterwards, because I don't really like to mend or to make knots. I think that shows up too much on the fabric, especially when you're doing sort of lacy things. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to just weave it in afterwards, but then I got back to it and I dropped some stitches and I made a big mess, and this might seem like a lot of work, but it's really a little less work than what I was embarking on. So I mainly do this when I'm working with more expensive yarn, and it's not that this yarn is that expensive, but it's 100% wool, and I kind of like to not throw it away just because I messed up. So it's well, I shouldn't say expensive then. I should say this yarn is of a quality that I would like to not waste. I read on their website, and I don't know if it could be just marketing or whatever, but on their website it says that it's wound in Scotland, I think, on like very old cast iron machines, and yeah, I don't know. I'm partial for that. Now, people with more equipment than me would start by stretching this, because you can see the yarn is curly because it's just been ripped out of the knitting. But for me, I don't think I can really see the difference when it's then knitted up again. So for me, it's not an issue. And this ball has been wound for a little while now, and it's started to stretch out. So it's not really, for me at least, it's not really an issue. But if you wanted to, of course, you could get one of those umbrella things that fold out, and then you can stretch the yarn. Okay, so now the yarn actually broke off the knitted piece, and it's fine because the ball is of a size now that I wouldn't be able to actually wind it much bigger. So I'll just take this and take it off. But before I do that, I want to find my starting, my starting strand, because I want it to be on top. So here we are. And then you take the ball off. Now it's a really nice center pull ball. Now I have all of my many stitches unraveled and put onto balls of yarn so that I can continue using it. And the yarn did break at certain points, so I do have some smaller. This is from the beginning, and this is at the middle. I switched from one type of stitch to another, and I pulled too hard and it snapped. So as I said, it's not really that yarn is weak. When it's knitted up, it's really not a problem. It doesn't sort of break just out of nowhere, but it does break when you have a little bit of a tension thing on one strand and then you pull it, then it will break. So I do have some smaller balls, but it's not going to be a problem. I might use it for the edging, or I might knit with this, and then when I put on the edging, I will just sew in these ends into that, because I do not like to sit and sew ends in. I don't think anyone who knits or crochets or whatever really likes to tidy up the ends. It's a really crappy job. But the rest of it became these sort of nice balls. They look like 50-gram balls, but they're really not. It's more like 30 or 40 because it's so airy. But it's really, I don't know, they're really pretty, and I like to have them sitting. Of course, working from the cone is much easier, and there isn't going to be knots and ends and things to weave in. But sometimes when I do buy yarns in hanks, I will wind it onto these things for the machine. So, and they become really nice center pull balls, and I really like that. It makes it really easy to work from, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. As I said, I did not go out and buy this particularly or specifically for this purpose, because I did buy the machine and then it was in one of the boxes that came with the machine. But I'm really happy I have it now, and I think I would have, yeah, I should have bought this ages ago. It would have made my life so much easier in so many ways, but they're kind of expensive, and yeah, it's just a really great little thing to have, so that you can wind your yarn back onto balls if necessary. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next Friday.